Hello. Hi. I hope all of you know me. We are right now starting our fourth trimester. The students who have opted for business analytics as a specialization, they will be learning a subject which is called design thinking and data driven storytelling. This is a 3 credit course. 3 credit means you will be having 30 sessions. During these 30 sessions, we will also organize online or offline workshop on design thinking and data driven storytelling activities. Today, being the first session, I'll give you a brief understanding about this course and why we will be learning this course. Design thinking and data driven storytelling. This is the title of the course. There are two parts. One is called design thinking and the second part is called data driven storytelling. This entire course is divided into 5 modules. We'll be talking on each of these modules, and during this journey of understanding the various sessions under each of this module, we will also have certain, the assessment, which may be some sort of presentation, workshops, maybe some MCQs, and various other assessment activities that we'll be doing during this journey of this 3 credit course. Today, I'll be talking about the module 1. The module 1 is understanding the concept of design thinking and its applications. This particular module will be having 8 sessions. Today is the first session where we will try to understand the basic concept of design thinking. Design thinking itself is a multi-billion-dollar business. I will also speak to you and share you that what is the size of this business which is related with the design thinking and how companies are accepting this concept of design thinking for developing their new products, for developing their new services, and also innovating their existing product and existing services. So what is all about this design thinking? So this is the module 1 that we will be discussing today. The module 1 session objectives are very clear. We will try to understand very clearly that what is design and what is design thinking. And then the rest of the sessions will also cover the following: introduction about design thinking and designers. Many of you may be interested to work in the area of design thinking professionals for product companies, services companies, digital marketing companies, or maybe companies which are, the startup companies. So we will see that what are the design principles and what is the design thinking process flow, what are the stages, what are the tools, what are the techniques that is used in the process of innovating a new product using the concept of design thinking. We'll also, you being all the management students, we will also try to understand that what are the design thinking strategies and the capabilities required for executing design thinking activities. We'll also understand that what is this explore, what are the discovery channels or the challenges. We'll also understand the process of getting into the design thinking process, interpret through empathy, understand various tools which are used in empathy study, and also do the risk assessment. After that, once you do the empathy stage, then your next is your called ideate. Before ideate, you also need to do the define. Define is a process where you have to clearly spell out that what all is the problem that need to be addressed. And then you come to the ideate. So generate ideas, shortlist a workable solution, perform risk assessment. Remember, whenever you go through the process of design thinking, at the end of every stage, you need to do the risk assessment. It's very important, because without risk assessment, if you go to the next stage, maybe you will face some problems while in the next stage. So you may have to go back because this is an iterative process. Then create, develop prototypes of a big idea, get feedback. Why feedback? We will discuss that. Perform financial analysis of the solution and again the risk assessment. And then you have to evolve, track the success and scale of the solutions, and design for services. We will also talk about the people who are interested to work in the area of design thinking professional for the service industries. So we'll also talk about product versus services, service development, and experience life cycle. So this will be the coverage for this module 1 under the title called Design Thinking. Now let's try very simple. What is design? What is design? If you see the next few slides, you will get a very clear understanding that what is design. What is design? Design is not aesthetics. I hope all of you understand what is aesthetics. Once you enter into a room, by seeing the room, you can feel, there are a lot of aesthetic values which are there inside the room. So design is not an aesthetic. Then what? Design is not an event. Event means you have planned certain activities to execute for achieving certain objectives. That is not design. Then what? Design is not a product. Then what is a product? We will discuss that. You will understand that what is a product and where exactly it comes in the process of design thinking. Design is also not an experience. Very important. Design is also not an experience. If you see this will give you a different type of experience. If you enter into a 5-star hotel room and you will see the ambience inside the room is so beautiful that you will get a very high experience. So design is not an experience. So then what design is? Then what is design? So what we discussed, design is not aesthetics, design is not an event, design is not a product, and design is not an experience. Then what is design? Let's try to understand what is design. This concept of design thinking that has been initiated by this gentleman called Tim Brown. He was the CEO of IDEO. The first person who initiated this concept of design thinking as a process, he says that design thinking is a human-centric approach to innovation that integrates the needs of people, the possibilities of technology, and the requirements for business success. You see, there are 3 important components in this definition. One is called human-centric approach. Very important. And that human-centric approach should integrate the needs of the people, the possibilities of using the technology. If you are designing a product to fulfill the needs of the people, you also need to consider that what are the technologies that you may consider while doing this, a new product or a new service, and the requirements for getting the business success. So business success is for whom? Business success is for the organization for whom you are designing a product and a service. And the product and service will be utilized by whom? By the customers of that company or the consumer of that company. and your product and service has to be designed in such a way that it can fulfill those customers or consumers needs. So now let's try to understand what I said. The design thinking is not a product, design thinking is not an aesthetic, design thinking is not an event, design thinking is not an experience. So design thinking is the process, and this process of design thinking have 5 stages. What are those 5 stages? The first stage is called empathy. This is empathy. Now what is empathy? Empathy means is a set of activities by which you will try to have an interactions with your customers and try to find out that what are their expectations. This needs a lot of detail, stages, techniques, processes. We will discuss that at a later stage. So the first stage is called empathy. After you collect those data, then the second stage is called define. You have to define that what are the expectations of the people for whom you are designing a product or a service. So second stage is called define. I hope it is clear. After the define stage, then based upon the data you have collected, you need to get into the third stage, which is called ideate. This is stage number 3. After you ideate, so you have to come out with multiple ideas, and each of these ideas will have different objectives. Each of these ideas will have different set of processes which can help in achieving your customers' expectations or customer needs. You need to explore that. And once you complete the ideate process, then you come to the next stage, which is called designing the prototype. This is your fourth stage. So ideate, and from ideate you get into the prototype stage. Once you get the prototype stage, then finally you have to do the testing. This is your fifth stage. This entire process of empathy, define, ideate, prototype, and testing is called design thinking process. I hope it is clear. So design thinking is a process comprising of 5 stages, and those 5 stages are empathy, where you need to do a lot of synthesizing of the data. Then you come to the define stage. After you come to the define stage, you have to do a lot of explorations and create the multiple ideas by which you can address the problem of your customers, and then select one or maybe one or two and create the prototype, and that is called working prototype. And this working prototype need to get tested by showing the prototype to your customer for whom you have designed this product. Now, this 5 stages is called design thinking process. Any questions? If anybody have any questions, you can ask that in the chat box and we can address those at a later stage. Design thinking is a process where you need to create your mindset. Now, what is the mindset? The mindset means you have to be having a lot of innovative approach in addressing your problem and solving your problem. Now, let's take an example. First thing of your mindset should be it should be human centric. Any problem you want to solve, you want to address, to resolve that, it should be human centric. Now, when you do this human centric approach, you need to form a collaborative way of addressing that problem. Now, what is collaborative way? Collaborative way means you should not take the problem and solve that. You can find out some one or two, four, five people based upon the type of problem that you are addressing to solve, and make a group. Using that group, you can have to have an interactions with each one of them, and then in the process form a collaborative, cohesive team. So teamwork is very important for solving a problem using design thinking process. The third attribute, which is called learning by doing. Learning by doing is an approach by which you have to do some hands-on activities, and that hands-on activities will be done in a group by the people involved in the group. They will come out with certain solutions, and that solution has to be shared with the people for whom you are trying to solve a problem. Then embrace experimentations. The product which you are going to design, you need to see that how that product is going to interact with the other associated product and services. The next thing is that you need to have a mindset of understanding the different patterns, relationships, and the systems which are directly or indirectly going to interact with your product and services. That is very important. And then you need to have a understanding of visualizing this and showing your product to your future customers. Now, this attributes of mindsets is very important before you get into the design thinking process. So these are very important key principles. So what are those key principles for getting into the design thinking process? Is you should have a human centric approach. You need to have a collaborative teamwork approach. You need to do something and learn something. Learning by doing. Embrace experimentations. Understand the patterns, relationships amongst the systems which are directly or indirectly getting associated with the process. Then you have to visualize. And so how to visualize? So you need to have the skill set to visualize that, and you also need to know the skill set which are required to show that what exactly is the product that is going to come once you have finalized and created a prototype. Now let's see and try to understand that three important things. You should have a heart on, hands on, and head on. These three should be always active when you are in the process of designing a new product. So to do this, what are the skill set that you need to have? In the heart on, you need to have empathy, adaptability, and courage. Empathy, adaptability, and courage. What is courage? That you should have the courage to ask the people that why you want this product, how you are going to use this. So you need to make a detailed questionnaires, and based upon your questionnaires, you need to ask the people that how you like to use. You should have a courage to ask questions. So this is on hearts on. Always remember, you need to have a beginner's mindset. Beginner's mindset means you are starting from the scratch. You should treat yourself that you don't know anything about this, and then accordingly you need to ask questions, and then come to the emotional resilience and open mindedness. These are the skills which are required to have your heart on skill sets before you get into the the design thinking process. Now you have created your mindset, heart is on. Now you need to know the tools. If you are not aware about the tools which are going to be used for the design thinking process, then it will have a difficulty. So what you need to know, what are the skills, methods, tools are used to reframing, to do the ideation, how do you make iterative prototyping, sense making, you need to know what is the sense making, facilitation skill set, co-creation and collaboration. I don't know whether you are familiar with these terminologies and the skill sets which are required. Reframing. Reframing means somebody has asked you a question, so you need to reframe the questions and ask a counter question to get the detail, data which he or she is looking for. Based on that, you need to think about and create and do some sort of ideation. You need to have a skill set to do a iterative prototyping, sense making. So when you are doing something, you need to understand that what is behind it, that internal thinking of sense making. Facilitations, very important skill, because when you work in a team, in a collaborative form, you need to interact with the people and facilitate, allow the people to come out with their own ideas, their own, you know, creative thinking, and that's called facilitation. And using that, you can create something, and that creation will be not your creation, it is a team creation, and that is why it is called co-creation. And in the process of creating a new idea, new product, you need to have a collaborative approach. Collaboration. Remember, large companies, we will see some videos and see that how this collaborative approach of design thinking helps in making an innovative products, a killer product. And to do this, you need to have a hands-on, and it is basically, design thinking is a process which the skill set you can learn by participating in multiple workshops. So since currently, our delivery is online, so we need to be careful in understanding that how this hands-on, skill set generation we will be able to do using this online, delivery mechanism, right? The next is called head-on. The head-on, we need to see that what are the divergent thinking, synthesis. You need to think about the system thinking. I don't know whether you are aware that what is a system. A system is a block of only three activities. After you give the input, it goes into the process, and based upon the process, the output. If you see this is a typical definition of a system. So it says system thinking. Question in the process of thinking methodologies for trying to find out a solution for your customer, start thinking that what is the system approach of this. Now, this is a very basic definition of system: input, process, and output. After that, the output gets filtered. The output gets filtered. After the output gets filtered, it goes to the next level, which is called dissemination. You are sharing the filtered data to the multiple people who will be the user of that, and then you get the feedback. The feedback can be a positive, can be a negative feedback. Based upon the feedback, you need to do some sort of corrections in your process, and after you get the feedback, again you need to go back to your input. So based upon the feedback, you do some corrections, you need to do some control, and then again go back to the input. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So system, this is called system. So system is a block of 7 interrelated. It starts with the input, process, output, filter, dissemination, feedback, control, and again it goes back to the input. So this is a continuous process. So what it says, that you need to have a system thinking knowledge, and then you should also have emotional intelligence. You also need to apply the emotional intelligence to extract maximum data, insights from your customer for whom you are in the process of designing a new product. Visual thinking. Remember, this is a skill which you need to develop, that you need to think that after I complete the product, how the product will look like. So that's called visual thinking. And this all will be possible if you have a strong imagination power. So imagine it and create some visual thinking about your new product which is going to come out. So this is called mindset and attitudes, which are one of the important requirements before you get into the design thinking process. What I told you a few minutes back: explore, empathize, experiment, engage, and evolve. If you see this, the phases called explore, empathize, experiment, engage, and evolve. Using the design thinking 5 stages, what are those? Empathize, define, then after you define, then you have to create your prototype, test the prototype. Now, here, for each of these phases, there are purpose. So why you need to do explore, why you need to do empathize, why you need to do experiment, engage, and then evolve. And if you see this, the modules which are related with the design thinking process is called inspiration, ideation, and implementation. These are the 3 processes which are used in the design thinking process, and there are 5 stages. Those are explore, empathize, experiment, engage, and evolve. I hope up to this is clear. When you get into the design thinking process, there are certain design principles which you need to understand. What are the design principles? First thing is called understand and observe. So when you do an empathize process, asking questions to your customer for whom you are designing the product, you need to be very careful about your understanding and observe. Observation also helps in collecting a lot of data. So you need to understand and observe, and then based upon the data you have collected, you need to visualize, and you need to have some sort of realization of that. So visualization and realization will help you to get into the next stage of the design process, and then you need to evaluate and refine. And finally, after you refine this, get into the implementation, and that implementation is called the detail engineering. And once you have the detail engineering, that will help you to getting into the prototype, and then make a working prototype which can be implemented in the manufacturing licensing process. So if you see this, these are the design principles which are used in the design thinking process. So if you see this particular Venn diagram, you will get an idea. So the innovation is here. Innovation desirability. What is the desirability of the people for whom you are designing a product or a service? So you need to focus on that. Then it should be a viable in terms of the business. What is a business viability? Is it possible to accept and use? That assessment you need to do with the help of business viability, and then do the physical. Now when you do a business viability, you need to see the financial viability, whether this product, new product which is going to be implemented, that will have those requirement which can help to business to become a business viable. Then you need to do the feasibility, and that's the technical feasibility. There are a lot of other things you can assess, and if you can address this desirability with viability and feasibility using the approach of design principle, you will be able to come out with an innovative product or service. Take an example, some visuals. You are designing some product. See this, and you have given a human-centered approach, and you have designed a product like this. So when you are designing a product, so what you have done in developing countries, 80% of all premature and low birth weight infants are born far away from hospitals and traditional incubators. So you need to address this to design your product. So that means you are designing a product for a newborn baby considering a human-centric approach. Take an example of this is there today in the retail outlets. So retail theft, you see. So you go there, observe this, and then what you need to do, you have to come out with a human-centric approach which can address the soft lifting problem. So who, what, when, why, and how. These are the approaches that you need to take to address your problem. Now who? The soft lifter. The soft lifter can be a customer or an employee. A customer coming to the retail floor, maybe the customer can be a soft lifter or an employee can be a soft lifter. What? If any trend in soft lifting regarding the product. What they soft lift? The products. When? Is there any specific time? Is it in the morning hours, afternoon, evening, or occasions during some festivals time when there is a huge crowd in the retail shop and the people are doing the soft lifting? Then why and how? Soft lifting awareness. You need to create an awareness, training to employees regarding the exceptional customer service. Then you have to design something called electronic article surveillance. You need to have EAS tags, and you need to put some anti-theft signs. Then you need to do some sort of designing the strategic outline of the entire shop floor, the retail floor, by strategizing layout and merchandising in the store. This is called pedestal systems. And finally, you can also use the new technology, artificial intelligence and machine learning, like Amazon Go. So if you are doing some soft lifting, you see this, you will be able to track that with the help of AI and machine learning.